Dragon's Dogma 2 has had a massive launch as it broke new records for Capcom, with the Steam charts listing that the game has had 200,000 concurrent players. That being said, the game is currently being review bombed on Steam for a plethora of reasons, including the game's bad performance, along with the introduction of microtransactions. There's a lot to be discussed here, and Capcom themselves have even released an official statement regarding this, and there is also a lot of misinformation being spread around, so in today's video I want to go over all of that. So as you all know, I love Dragon's Dogma 2, I've been having a blast with the game, having put over 60 hours into it at this point. The game's performance issues is something that I talked about in my review, and despite being something that Capcom is actively working on, a game releasing in this state in 2024, not properly optimized, is never a good thing. I think everyone can agree with that statement, and while I wouldn't put a negative review on the game for that alone, I do understand the sentiment that the consumers have, especially when these negative reviews are the only ways that they have to be able to raise their concerns. But that leads us to the second factor as to why Dragon's Dogma 2 is being review bombed on Steam. The game is currently sitting at a 40% positive reviews only, and that is in large part because of all the microtransactions. A lot of items that you can obtain in Dragon's Dogma 2 are being sold as paid DLC, and these are just outright ridiculous. With you, for example, being able to purchase a single Wakestone for $1, which is just absurd considering how many of these items you'll be able to get in the game. Now, before I continue talking about this topic, I do want to say that microtransactions across the board are always going to be a negative. They are bad because they create a profit incentive for the developers to change the way that the games are made in order to, well, make more money. And if these microtransactions happen to be things that you cannot obtain in the game, the developers would essentially be locking content out of the game and making it exclusive, whereas normally you would be able to obtain it. And let's face it, you are already paying full price for a AAA game, and when the companies try to nickel and dime you, trying to get every last cent out of you with these microtransactions, it never feels good. Now, in the case of Dragon's Dogma 2, every single one of these items that you can purchase can be obtained in the game by playing normally. In fact, anyone that plays the game would know not to purchase these items as they can be easily obtained, with a couple of jarring examples being the case of the Wakestone, which I talked about earlier, but also being able to purchase a makeshift jail key that you can only use once. And in the actual game, if you just progress the main story quests for a little bit, I'm talking maybe 1 or 2 hours of playtime, you are able to get a jail key that is permanent, which would make this microtransaction completely obsolete. So to be perfectly blunt and clear, these microtransactions are comedically pathetic and stupid. And again, no one in their right mind that has played the game even just a little bit would actually purchase these. As I said, there is a lot of misinformation going around regarding all of these microtransactions, with some people saying that you are locked out of fast travel unless you purchase one of these, or that you cannot customize your character and change their appearance once you start the game without purchasing one of these Art of Metamorphosis books. And those are just straight up lies. Throughout your playthrough of Dragon's Dogma 2, you'll be able to obtain 5 to 6 port crystals, which is essentially an item that you can place down, and by using a fairy stone you are able to fast travel to that location. But again, the game already gives you 5 to 6 of these, which are more than enough for you to get around. And as for being able to change your character's appearance, from the very beginning of the game you can simply go up to the Rift Guild, and you can talk to the vendor there, and you can see that you can actually purchase these books in-game, and they are actually very cheap as well. In addition to that, if you beat the game and get into New Game Plus, you will be able to purchase these again. So these microtransactions end up just being pointless and stupid. There have been a lot of creators on both Twitter and YouTube that have been spreading fake information regarding all of this, which I think has just created this negative stigma around Dragon's Dogma 2. So I really want to emphasize to everyone that you can obtain every single item that is available to be purchased by playing the game naturally, and with my 60 plus hours of playtime I never felt the lack of an item that I could purchase. That being said, I do feel like it is totally understandable why people are upset that there are these many microtransactions for the game. But in case you are not familiar with Capcom's history, this is something that Capcom has been doing for a very long time, with games such as Monster Hunter World, Monster Hunter Rise especially, but also Devil May Cry 5 and Resident Evil 4, having tons of microtransactions, and pretty much every single one of them is naturally obtained by playing the game, And so ultimately I see these microtransactions as just the Capcom executives being greedy and wanting to get more money out of the consumers. At the end of the day, this is a bad and dumb practice that fools no one that actually plays the game, and ultimately I think that it is going to affect the game's sales, because if you are a casual consumer just browsing Steam, or you are someone that casually browses Twitter and sees some of the conversation about Dragon's Dogma 2, you're going to see all of this negative feedback, and as a result you're going to be less incentivized to buy the game. Some people have even gone on to refund the game because of this, and I won't tell you that you should not do that. That is your right, that is your decision, that is totally fine. But personally, something like this would not stop me from playing Dragon's Dogma 2, because I do believe that it is a phenomenal game. And again, and I do have to repeat this, these microtransactions are bad, they should not be in the game, and as a general statement, every single kind of microtransaction is bad. Now, does this actually affect the game in any way? Is this pay to win or pay to progress? In my opinion, it really isn't, because again, you can get everything that is there in the game. And so the only thing that may actually be of use to you out of all of these items is obtaining one additional port crystal for you to be able to teleport to a different location. Now, there is one more big problem with Dragon's Dogma 2 that I think there is no reason for it existing, which is the lack of a new game option. Currently in Dragon's Dogma 2, if you want to start over a new character, there is no way for you to do that. On PC at least, there is a little bit of a convoluted solution where you can go into the game's files and delete a specific file, because if you actually uninstall the game and delete the save files, the game will automatically download the character's save file for you. So if you are playing the game on console, you have no way to start over a new save file. And again, there is just no reason for this to be a thing. I get that the developers want you to only have one save file so you don't save scum and live with the consequences of your actions, all of that stuff, but when it leads to these problems and so many inconveniences, I think it just ends up being a problem, and at this point I feel like Capcom should add a new game option, especially since Dragon's Dogma 1 already has it. Which, by the way, Dragon's Dogma 1 also had similar microtransactions to that of Dragon's Dogma 2. They tried to pull the same thing by selling you Rift Crystals and Wakestone Shards. So again, it's just Capcom being stupid and greedy with all of this, and the entire situation is just unfortunate because I really do feel passionate about Dragon's Dogma 2 and I really do believe that it is a phenomenal game. Now, having said that, given the explosion on social media regarding the game, we have actually received an official statement by Capcom regarding all of this. So let's take a look at it right now. To all of the Dragon's Dogma 2 players, we would like to update you on the status of the following items, about which we have received numerous comments from the community. To all those looking forward to this game, we sincerely apologize for any inconvenience. We are investigating and fixing critical problems such as crashes and freezing, and we'll be addressing them in the near future. We are looking at adding a feature to the Steam version of the game that will allow players that are already playing to restart the game. We will announce more details as soon as we can. Now, as for the paid DLC, the big point of contention, all the items listed below can be obtained in-game or as paid DLC items. And they go on to specify all of the items that I mentioned, so that is the character editor, the incense to change your pawn inclinations, the port crystals, the wake stones, the rift crystals, the harpy snare smoke beacon, and even the jail key. And finally, regarding the framerate, it seems as though the slowdown is caused by CPU usage, which can be very high and may affect your framerate. So currently Capcom is looking for a way to improve that, so that players can have a better performance with the game in the future. And that is pretty much their statement regarding all of this. Now, as for my honest feelings regarding the microtransactions, which is the biggest deal, I'm someone that has always pushed against microtransactions in pretty much any game. And just recently with Granblue Fantasy Relink, I even made a video where I talked about the microtransactions there not being good. And they work pretty much in the same way that they work here in Dragon's Dogma 2, where you can obtain them in the game, but it doesn't feel good to be able to purchase them. Other than out of principle against microtransactions, I would say that these are not that bad, and Capcom has always been consistent with this, unfortunately. And if you see these as a negative, then you likely feel the same way with Devil May Cry 5 or Resident Evil 4. You're not paying to progress the game. In my opinion, you're just paying to lose money because you get nothing out of it. It's just a dumb scenario that leads to the game getting negative reviews, because again, that is the only way that players are able to criticize the developers and the company. I will keep on playing Dragon's Dogma 2 because I like it so much, and I have a ton of videos already prepared for you guys, but I hope that this doesn't sour your experience, nor does it stop you from playing such a good game. But if you choose to hold off on purchasing it and are waiting for a sale, I do also believe that that is perfectly understandable. Anyways, let me know how you all feel about this. I have been getting asked on YouTube and Twitter to make a video on this topic, so I am curious to see how everyone feels about it. With that being said, thank you all so much for watching. My name is Dark Hero, and as always, happy hunting!